All right. So before we bid a fond farewell to chapter 4, there is one more thing that the book's asking us to do. Add more controls in code, numbers 8, 9, and then 10. All right. So they didn't give us a sort of a template for this, but we can kind of infer what's going on here. What they want is they want to have the largest invoice and the smallest invoice so far basically stored up on the screen. So in order to do this, we're going to have to get a little bit more real estate. So I'm going to basically shrink this down a little bit. What I'm going to do here, I don't know, man. I'm going to bring this up. You can hear, by the way, my door rattling in the background. My cat is apparently starting to freak out because I'm all by myself in the house right now. And the cat's saying, hey, there's no one else here. Shouldn't you be the one playing with me? And I'm going, dude, I got stuff to do. Seriously, if you could see, there's a little paw just underneath. Anyway, all right. So I'm gonna soldier forward through this, and then I'll go play with the cat for you cat lovers. All right, so back into the toolbox, again. And what we're gonna do is gonna grab a text box. I'm gonna shove it here. I'm gonna grab another text box. I'm gonna shove it here. Awesome. These are also gonna both be displays. So let's just take that right now and look for that read only doodad. Yeah, read only. Come on, where are you? Read only right there. Read only right there. Sometimes I actually watch these videos afterwards and I can just see me fumbling along, and I can't imagine what you guys go through. But anyway, there's the read only. Next thing we want to do is we want to give it a good name, right? So this will be probably largest and smallest. So let's just go largest and smallest. Looking for design. There's design. That's the name of the text box so far. What a yucky name. Text box. Largest invoice, and then this guy will be text box smallest invoice. Let's remember, by the way, that we did that because in a minute I'm going to do the labels, and there you go. Okay, those two are good. Let's grab a couple labels, slap them right here. Label 1, label 2. Don't really care. I'm not going to name the labels as much here. And this guy, oops. Oh, I just created a what happens if someone clicks on that label. Well, may as well, no time like the present. I'm going to delete it, and something's going to be mad at me. And so I'm going to go over here. I'm going to say, hey, why are you mad at me? What's going on? What's going on? Why are you mad at me, man? And can I even remember how this works? Well, you know what? That's going to haunt me later. I don't want to deal with it now. All right, so back over to here. Yeah, see, no, I got to deal with it now. It's mad at me. It is mad. Well, you know what? Actually, if you're mad, okay, I'm gonna make an attempt to figure this out live, and then after that, I will just give up and go and hide my face in shame. All right, so is that okay? What if I? So you know where you're mad. You're mad right there, right there. You're mad at that label click. Okay, good deal. Thank you. Stop it then. Don't do that. Okay, I think we're good now. We're back. We're back in black. Okay, let's go here. Label. I want to change this label. I want to change the text to largest. See, he was attempting to make me forget which one I put on top, but largest, and it would be largest invoice probably. But anyway, and down here, this will be smallest. All right, let's do that. Good, done. Let's start this thing because I did actually have a mild meltdown there, but we're looking good. We're looking good. I'm not going to test anything else because nothing's happening there. Could use a bit of formatting love, but that's fine. So I kind of want to have a variable probably because I got my text boxes now, but I do want to have a variable that will remember what is the largest, what is the smallest. They're also going to be class variables, so I may as well put them up where my class variables are. We're going to go decimal, and this one's going to be largest invoice. It's going to be initialized to M, and M, and this one's going to be decimal smallest invoice, which is also going to be initialized M. Awesome. They're grayed out again because apparently they're not being used, which they certainly are. right here is where I'm dealing with my class variables. And I'm evangelizing using comments here, but I'm going to basically say, I'm going to go class / persistent variables used for stats of the invoices. Okay, good. I'm happy with that. All right, so now largest invoice is going to be assigned at this point 0, because we're going to have to learn something new for that one. And then smallest invoice is going to be assigned 0. Let's just get these variables in, and then let's after that after we get them in, then we'll talk about how we're actually going to figure this out. So this is going to be the largest invoice dot toString, excuse me, geez, okay, maybe it is time for a break, don't know. Anyway, we'll keep going. And this is going to be the text smallest invoice, which is also going to be assigned our fabulous variable smallest invoice, which has its method toString, which has got, I'm going to use the currency conversion dude, semicolon. And you know what? I've just done that. These are going to be on the right-hand side. Let's anticipate the fact I probably want to clear them out. So I'm going to clear them out. Yeah, I think it's a safe bet. I think it's a safe bet. So I'm going to clear them out there, and then I'm going to grab my 2 assignments, copy and paste, and awesome. So, there's some errors though going on. So why are you erroring out? Cannot do a string to the text box. Oh, wow. Remember, that's a text box, but I actually want to change the text property of that text box, that object. So if you were screaming at me for the past 5 minutes, yes, I forgot that. And of course, it just made that change there. So guess what? You have to make a change there. Isn't this beautiful though, that the IDE stopped me from running the program. At least it attempted anyways. It said, hey, are you sure you want to run this? Because you obviously don't know what you're doing. All right, here we go. So we're going to go, no, I tell you what, we did a couple of significant changes. Let's build it first. So we build it, looks good. And then we're going to go run it. And it's running. And I'm going to go $100, $100, okay, whatever. These things are zeros and zeros, which makes sense. When I go clear, they all clear. Awesome, awesome. Now we just got to know how in the world do we actually work with these. So largest isn't going to be 0. It's going to be the largest of the invoice compared to the past. Yeah, basically. Right now, the largest invoice is 0, which honestly, it came in as 0. So right now it's 0. Oh, by the way, probably M would have been good. But anyway, we're not even going to do that. So what if I told you that I can compare the largest invoice to the invoice that's coming in, the invoice total? And the answer is I can. There's a beautiful function out there. Actually, well, it's a return to math. So there's a math. We used the round before, but now we're going to use something called max. And max basically takes the maximum of 2 arguments. So I'm going to pass in the largest invoice, which as we know is 0. And we're going to compare it to the invoice total. And then I'm going to close parentheses, and then I'm going to put semicolon and get the semicolon out of there, because that'll take that. All right, so let's have a look. So all the red goes away. I'm going to leave smallest the way it is right now, because it's not too hard to imagine that there's probably a min in there too. All right, so let's run it. Building would have been good too. But anyway, so here's 100, right? And now the largest was 0, but 75 is larger than 0, so that gets in there. Now, if I go 1,000, 750 is now the largest invoice. If I go back to 10, 750 remains the largest invoice. Pretty cool. All right, let's exit. And now let's do the same thing here, but let's do it with min. So it's almost exactly the same code. It's only two characters different. I'm going to go paste. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to go min. And look at that. If I basically now fire off the start on that one, building would have been good too, granted, if you pay attention. So here's $100. $1,000 gets me the largest one being 750. Smallest one though. Oh, for the love of Pete. It's going to be equal to the, yeah, okay. All right. Yeah. I want to basically compare the smallest invoice to the invoice that's coming in. All right. And I was bragging about it being only like 3 characters different. Anyway, there's 100. There's 1,000. So now notice that the smallest invoice so far, technically you would argue the smallest invoice should have been the first invoice, but I don't care. I'm going to do that. And that's now I'm going to drop it down to 10. Oh, no. I have to care. Because the smallest invoice is always going to be it's always going to be 0. All right, we got to rethink that strategy. Okay, so let's go back over to here. So smallest invoice, maybe smallest invoice cannot be hard coded at 0. All right, that's a pretty basic thing. All right, well, hang on a second. I'm going to think about this a little bit more and try a couple things out, and then I'll tell you what my fabulous solution was. All right, so an ego is a bad thing to have as a programmer, so don't let it get in your way. I was thinking to myself, like, it makes sense, right? You can't initialize to 0, and I was coming up with my own thought of you guys have already seen an if statement already, so I could have done something crazy like if the smallest invoice is 0, then make it the invoice, and then and then have it go into that thing right here, into that line. But in the end, this is a solution file. You can tell because it kind of reverted back to some of the other things I didn't want to do. But look at this. What they do is they have this assumption that when they're initializing these class variables, that the smallest invoice is actually the largest value that the decimal class can have. Pretty freaking smart, because that way then when you go into that if statement, your invoice, you would think, would be less than the largest value a decimal could have. And if it wasn't, then good for you. It's kind of like infinity, if you know what I mean. At that point, your invoice would be infinity, and it would be accurate. So anyway, the smallest would be infinity is what I'm trying to say. So I think that's a pretty smart way to solve that problem. Rather than having an if statement, they basically just said, instead of these things all being 0, we're going to make the smallest guy the biggest. And so then when it comes into this comparison down here, it's saying what's smaller. The first time it runs through, that's going to be the biggest or your invoice. And then at that point, we're back and everything's solved. Let's run it and test it. Again, this is the actual solution file, so I'd hope it would work. But here's 100. Great. So that is the smallest invoice for sure. Here's 1,000. And then here's 10. And 10 should drop the smallest invoice, and it does, to 750. All right. Well, that was an exciting romp through that. And now we finished chapter 4.